So I want to get today's news, of course, about the fires. But first, let's take a step back. This past year has been pretty tough on LA. There's obviously been the fires, the immigration raids, some budget, a bit of a budget crunch. And of course, Hollywood slowdown has really only added to that. And actually, the entertainment industry has hit a rough patch for a few years now, I think much longer than everyone's expected. So I'm wondering if you're seeing any real signs that things are turning around for the entertainment business.
Well, let me just say there was good news this year. I mean, finally getting tax credits of some value, over $700 million. I think that's very good news. And for me, that's special because when I was in the legislature, I was involved in getting the first tax credits in. And what my hope was that it was going to grow over time, but it didn't grow fast enough. So after advocating for the tax credits, I did want to say, what could we do in the city of Los Angeles to make filming easier? And so I believe that the best way to do policy is to go to the people who are directly involved. And so I went to the industry. I asked them, what do we need to do better here? And there were several things. One, of course, is the red tape in terms of, getting on location, the permitting, lowering the costs, decreasing the number of city staff that are required. And then the industry wanted one or two individuals that could essentially provide a concierge service. And so we put all that in place. I did an executive directive calling for that because I felt like advocating for the tax credits wasn't enough. I wanted to know what we could do here.
Do you have anything else in the pipeline? Are you working at anything else in the city or along with the state to try and, lower the costs?
Well, I think, once you do a big piece of legislation like the tax credits, then you have unintended consequences. You have things that happen at the last minute. And so I know that there's going to be, it's called cleanup legislation. And I know that there's going to be some things that need to happen because right away, once the tax credits were signed, I certainly heard from the industry, well, what about this? And what about that? And why wasn't that included? And so I'm sure that there will be a look to see what improvements could be made on a legislative level.
President Trump's talked about 100% tariff on foreign-made films.
Yesterday, whatever. Well, who knows what that means? I mean, to me, the first thing I wonder is that the last thing in the world we need to do is tax U.S. companies who film overseas. Why on earth would we do that? We get the tax credits and then we tax them. But I think, with the president, we really never know what he means. And we also don't know, that's what he says 1 hour. And the next hour, all the things he said about L.A. that have been, it's one thing to kind of exaggerate or embellish, but it's a whole other thing to just invent stuff that just is not happening at all. What's called a lie.
Jimmy Kimmel will be on stage later tonight.
See, that's what happens when people get activated. People got activated and demanded that Jimmy Kimmel come back on the air. And I think that was a great victory. So sometimes, when you're struggling and you're going through all these changes because of the madness in D.C., it's important to realize when you do win, when you have a victory. And I think Jimmy Kimmel being back on the air was a victory for all of us.
Mm-hmm. I think, as you said, the suspension of his show really struck a nerve, both for freedom of speech, but also around, another local production that potentially was at risk. When something like that happens, how involved do you get? Do you pick up the phone? What do you do when you see something like that happen?
Sure, definitely pick up the phone to see what can I do to be helpful. Joining in the advocacy. Sometimes I am not necessarily in public. Sometimes it's behind the scenes. Sometimes that's the best way to advocate. But anything that I can do, encouraging other people's advocacy. But yes, I get involved. That's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. When you look at the numbers, it's not just the actors or the studios that are suffering. It's the creative economy, the set designers, the vendors. How is the city helping rebuild that pipeline of work? What specifically is in motion?
Well, actually, I can say what I've done. In the city, to me, the below-the-line crafts is actually how I started many, many years ago before I ever thought about running for office, was trying to advocate for classes in community colleges. So in West LA College now, there's a program where you can learn the below-the-line crafts, and they have different modules. And one success is that a lot of times the young people don't finish the program, and it's successful because a journeyman will take them on a set, and they launch into the career as opposed to going through all of the modules. So I think it's important, but it's also important to just promote the industry, because a lot of people don't know about the below-the-line jobs. But also, my family is personally involved in the ancillary part, and then letting people understand that it's not all about the sets. It's people who have a lot of businesses. My brother, for example, has a custom kitchen business, and he survived Home Depots by designing kitchens on TV sets. And so it's important for people to know that the industry just touches a wide breadth of our city. And then also advocating for filming, because a lot of times neighborhoods get upset about filming. I actually live in a neighborhood, well, I did, as mayor, I live in the mayor's house, but where we liked filming, and we would compete on our block to have filming done. Mm-hmm. And so right across the street from my house, they filmed Lincoln Lawyer.
I was speaking with someone who was actually on a set. I was speaking to them by phone earlier this week, and they looked around and they said there's 25 people on this set right now, but with the way AI is going, I expect this time next year there'd be 5 of these people here. So I'm just, in light of that and how fast AI is moving, is there anything specific that the city's doing to help workers adapt and to make sure that this innovation doesn't come at the cost of jobs?
No, there's not a specific program. I mean, I'm honest. If we're doing something, I'll tell you, and if we're not, I'll tell you that too. And we not are doing anything specific around AI. We actually are looking at AI in terms of the city. We're looking at AI in terms of the rebuilding of the Palisades. But we are not looking at how do we transition people and make sure that they stay employed if AI enters in and takes their job. But I think everybody was scared at that character that they came, the woman that they showed, that was really frightening.
Well, switching topics to the fires, authorities today arrested a man who was accused of intentionally sparking the Palisades fire. The prosecutor said he lit the fire on January 1st, and it smoldered for about a week, and of course the winds whipped up the fire, and we were left, of course, with a lot of structures and people who died. What reaction have you received from people in the Palisades, businesses, residents to that arrest?
This is a day to me. Going through the whole fires, it's a grieving process. I mean, people, it's not just a loss of a house. It's a loss of memories. People lost their lives. It's a loss of community. Kids lost their school. I had a meeting with a group of teenagers. They were in high school, and it dawned on me, this was right after the fires, and it dawned on me that the same group of kids went through COVID. And their lives were totally disrupted. They didn't make their graduations, and they weren't going to make their graduation again. So with what happened today, to me, that just re-traumatizes people. And I'm sure that a lot of people in the Palisades were brought back in time. There was the report a couple of weeks ago about the other fires. And I know that anytime something like that happens, people are re-traumatized. And I think it's important to be there for people and to do everything we can to get them back in their homes.
Rick Caruso, who you defeated in 2022 in the mayor's race and has been one of your most vocal critics around the fires, he released a statement today after the arrest saying it shows the disaster was preventable and, in his words, calling it a failure of government on an epic level, starting with Mayor Bass. He'll be with us on this stage tomorrow. Mm-hmm. How do you respond to that?
Well, the way he characterized me sounded like Trump, but I just was saddened by it, honestly, because I think that response was beneath him. And he was in my office a couple of weeks ago. We're working on something. We're working on a couple of things together. But I think that he is sad and bitter. And I think that it is really sad to exploit. You guys laughing about that? I feel like it's exploiting tragedy. It's exploiting grief. And this is when the city needs to stand together. Why would you do that? So he's better than that. And I was just disappointed and saddened.
You had mentioned he was in your office a couple weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. We're working on something together. You know what we're working on? We're working on, and it was actually something that he raised, something that I wanted to do, and he proposed a particular solution, and I'm really excited about it. That's ULA, United LA, the transfer tax. Well, I don't believe that if you lost your house, or frankly, if you were a survivor of the fire in Palisades, even if you didn't lose your house and you want to sell your house, you shouldn't have to pay a transfer tax. You shouldn't have to do that. And so we're looking at how we legally, because it was a ballot initiative, how legally we can do that. We're working together on rebuilding the rec center, working together on AI. So it's like here I'm working on all of these issues. Now, I'm in politics. I mean, there's a lot of performative stuff that goes on. And we used to play this game in Congress where, we'd beat each other up and then we'd go out and have dinner. That's not this. This is anger and resentment that's of a deep level, not the performative politics we do.
Mm-hmm. Mm. So you're running again next year. Politically, it's a very different time in the city, even in America, I think, than the 2022 election.
Sure is.
A lot has changed. Your party was in power then President Joe Biden endorsed you. Given how much has changed, how will you approach the next election and the campaign?
Well, I'm running again because I'm not finished. And I will tell you, though, that this will be my last election. I will not run after this for anything. And I think it's a problem when people run for one office, but they really want to do something else because then they're conflicted. But I ran because of the situation we have on our street of people being homeless. And I was worried that people were so angry about it that they were going to turn to punishing and criminalizing people. And I am not finished. This is a problem that has existed for 30 plus years, and it's a mess on every level. And you can't solve something as big as that in 3 years, which is how long I've been in. And I want to finish my job. But, we have so much to look forward to in our city. We have all of these events. Everybody talks about the Olympics, but in February, we have the All-Star basketball game. In May, we have the U.S. Open for golf for women. In June, we have the World Cup. 8 games are played here, but the World Cup lasts 40 days. In 2027, we have the Super Bowl. Then we get around to the Olympics and the Paralympics. And so we have so much to look forward to. And what we do in the city to build that unity and spirit is once a month, at the last Saturday of every month, we have this program called Shine LA, which I would invite all of you to participate in, where we bring people together to do different projects to beautify the city. Although the last Saturday I was involved, I was actually making meatballs. And I was making thousands of meatballs for homeless people. We were in a community project. So it's an opportunity for people to, build that city spirit and prepare to welcome the world. And my vision and hope is that when these games happen, that it's an opportunity for the entire city to take advantage of it. And it's an opportunity for small businesses. So we have summits where we work with small businesses so that they'll learn how to contract with the city or with FIFA or LA28 to take economic advantage. So I want it to be economically uplifting to our city, but also, in the midst of challenging times, we really do have a lot to look forward to.
You've built your career on coalition building. That was the reputation you brought to your election when you won. Now, as mayor, you've clashed with President Trump over wildfire aid, over the National Guard and Marine deployment in the city.
Yep.
And it's also a time where we're seeing someone like Governor Gavin Newsom, his popularity rise in the polls as he trolls Trump. So in this political climate, do you think like a bridge building approach still works, or do you have to be confrontational?
Absolutely. No, you got to do both. You got to do both. You have to be confrontational. I have to fight for the city. I have to defend the city. I mean, we are a city of immigrants, and I can't sit around and tolerate, what he has done. But I knew what he was doing. It was an experiment, and he experimented with us, and now he's taken that experiment, around the city. And what he is doing is getting the American people to acclimate and adjust and accept military intervention in our cities. And I think that is something that should never be accepted. And it was important for me to stand up and do that. And then today I was working with the administration, okay? I mean, I was talking to the U.S. Attorney, Bill Asaley, and we're fighting on immigration, but we worked together today on the press conference. That's the kind of, collaboration. It's a tactical alliance as opposed to a strategic alliance. So I'm not in alliance ideologically, but I am in alliance tactically if it's something that we're working on. I've always done that. I've always worked across the aisle. And I think it's critically important to build coalitions. It's a matter of power. It's not, you don't build coalitions for kumbaya, or I don't. I build coalitions to get something done.
I'm interested. You were a congresswoman during Trump's first term, and now you're the mayor. You're the mayor of America's second largest city during his second term. So what's the difference between being a lawmaker under Trump 1.0 and mayor in 2.0?
I feel, that's kind of weird to say this, but I feel fortunate that I did have 4 years experience with him. So I felt I knew how to deal with him this time. Also, a number of the people that he's appointed, those are my former colleagues. I know some of the secretaries that we'd fight, Tulsi Gabbard and Kristi Noem and Sean Duffy. And, those are folks that I worked with. I used to see Kristi Noem and Tulsi Gabbard in the gym every morning.
What would happen if you reached? Do you reach out to them now, or what would they? What would happen if you tried to reach out to them now in the same collegial way?
I would actually. I haven't had the occasion to, but what I would do is, I know if we were in front of cameras, we'd be performing, but off the camera, it would be a different conversation, I think. Mm-hmm. But there's a number of folks that I worked with. And so what the difference is that Trump, the first time, nobody took him seriously. And he had people in his administration that had guardrails and said, no, you can't do this. You can't send the military. If you remember, he said he wanted to do that then. But this time, he doesn't have guardrails. The other thing is that I think the right wing in our country realized after they got him in that they could profoundly change our country. And their first go at us was changing the judiciary. So that happened while I was there. And they systematically appointed judges that were in their 40s. So they'd be there for 40 years. Extremely right wing. That changed the judiciary. That has fundamentally changed our three co-equal branches of government, because I don't think we have them right now. We have one branch of government. The judiciary's been compromised. The Speaker and the head of the Senate went over to the White House and handed in their gavels. And so basically you have the country being run by one branch of government. That's a fundamental change. It's incumbent on us to make sure that that is a temporary change, because that's a type of change that leads to authoritarianism. And we do not want to see that in our country. I think it's really important that we not view the president as just crazy. Might be, but the people around him are very serious, with a very serious agenda, and they gave it to us in writing. We need to read it. Project 2025. Remember, he disavowed it during the campaign, and now he's embraced it. They've laid out, and I think that they started studying how they could bring about these structural changes during his first term. So it's very helpful to me that I went through that experience. So it allows me to, I think, to fight, but in a measured manner, and understanding that, there's things and ways that I will work with them. Now, the irony for me is that I was doing really risky stuff politically during the fires. I was complimenting the administration repeatedly, because what the administration did is sent tremendous number of resources our way, which is why we were able to clear out all of the fire areas so quickly and begin the rebuilding process. And I actually was. Do
you regret that now?
No. I still do it. No. He unleashed a tremendous number of Army Corps of Engineers. I will continue to say that. I don't regret that. But I will also say what I just said in terms of the restructuring of our country, how serious and dangerous it is, and how, profoundly vicious he has been. I mean, he's said all kinds of things about me. He says all kinds of things about Gavin, too, but some of the things he says are kind of comical. I guess he said I was in charge of the water in the Pacific Northwest. I was like, does he know he's talking about Oregon and Washington? I was like, and that's, I've got, this valve he keeps doing.
We're almost out of time, but if we could take 30 seconds. I just have a couple lightning round questions that we could just shift gears for a second. Last binge-worthy show you watched?
Oh, you know what? At night I like to watch just entertaining. Girlfriends, old sitcom. You like Girlfriends? And The Neighborhood. I like those. I binge watch those.
Okay.
I have to have light, light.
Who would play you in a Netflix drama about your first term?
Oh, a comedian. Kim Whitley, Yvette Nicole Brown, those are two comedians.
And just quickly, the last one, a neighborhood you show off to visitors to LA that surprises them.
Baldwin Hills, Baldwin Vista.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.